How's it going, everyone? In this video, we have some big news on Braun Strowman, WWE planning to debut another big star very soon, and a whole lot more. But before we begin, please make sure to drop a like on this video. I would really appreciate it. Alright guys, so for our first story of today, we have some big news on WWE's potential plan for Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. So even though the Royal Rumble is still a couple of months away, apparently WWE has some big things in store for the former Universal Champion. Because according to Wrestle Votes, Roman Reigns will likely be a participant in next year's men's Royal Rumble match, as opposed to a singles standalone match, which is something that he has not done since 2020. Next up, we have the latest update on Shotzi Blackhearts' return. So after she unfortunately suffered an ACL tear back in February during an episode of NXT, Shotzi has been pretty consistent in providing updates on her recovery. Well, from the looks of it, her return to WWE could be happening a lot sooner than later, because recently on her Instagram stories, Shotzi posted another update, but this time of herself in a ring, presumably training for her return to in-ring competition. However, despite this promising update, it is important to note that the exact date for her return is still unknown. Next, we have some big news that a newly signed WWE star is set to make their debut very soon. So after signing with WWE several months ago, it finally looks like the company has a date set to debut another big female star. Because according to a new report from Mike Johnson of PWInsider.com, the vignette which aired during the premiere episode of NXT on the CW is in fact for Delta, and unless plans change, her debut will be going down at NXT Halloween Havoc on Sunday, October 27th. Moving on to our next story, we have some very sad news for Braun Strowman. Because according to Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer, as of right now, the belief within WWE is that Braun Strowman suffered a groin tear after taking a Samoan drop from Bronson Reed on Monday Night Raw this week. And depending on the severity of his injury, Braun Strowman could be out of action for several weeks or at least 3 months if surgery is required. So now guys, I want to give you my thoughts and opinions on all of the stories that we discussed today. Starting off with our first story, we did talk about Roman Reigns and WWE's potential plans for him at the Royal Rumble. And from the looks of it guys, Roman Reigns will be competing in the men's Royal Rumble match, which is something that he has not done since 2020. So I do think that will be very interesting, and obviously Roman Reigns competing in such a match, obviously he will be a heavy favorite to win, but in my opinion, I do think that CM Punk will end up winning next year's Royal Rumble match. The other story that we talked about was on Shotzi Blackhearts' return to WWE after suffering an ACL tear, and it does look like some very good news for Shotzi, because as we all know, ever since she suffered her ACL tear several months ago, Shotzi has been on social media posting updates on her recovery, her going to rehab and things like this. And Shotzi did recently post on her Instagram stories a picture of herself wearing I believe it was a knee brace in a ring. So it does look like her recovery is going very well, and I do think that in time she will be able to make her return to in-ring competition, which for many fans is something that they have been waiting for, and I do hope that Shotzi, when she returns, she does not suffer another setback, because prior to her getting injured, she was very, very popular. So hopefully when she returns, she will be back at 100%. Next, we did talk about WWE planning another major debut, and that is for Delta. Delta, who signed with WWE several months ago. She is from Australia, and apparently her debut is set to take place at a NXT PLE. That is Halloween Havoc on October 27th. So basically, guys, just a few weeks away. And from what I've seen on YouTube and also on Twitter, I do think that Delta is someone who could be very similar to someone like Rhea Ripley in terms of stature, power, and also look. So I do think that when Delta debuts, WWE will book her as a very strong wrestler, which wouldn't be too surprising because if you guys have seen her matches on YouTube. If you haven't, I recommend you watch some matches on YouTube. She does have a pretty interesting gimmick, a very interesting look, and she is a very physical wrestler. So I am excited to see what exactly WWE has in store for her debut. The other story that we talked about was on Braun Strowman and some pretty unfortunate news for him because it does look like Braun Strowman did suffer an injury in his match against Bronson Reed on Monday Night Raw this week. And Brian Alvarez of the Wrestling Observer did say that Braun Strowman is believed to have suffered a growing strain. So that means that Braun Strowman, depending on the severity of his injury, he could be out of action for like 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks. However, if his injury does require surgery, he could be out of action for, I believe I did see that it could be for around 3 to 4 months. So he could be out of action for quite some time if his injury is very severe. So hopefully it's not, because ever since Braun Strowman got involved in this, or he started to feud with Bronson Reed on Monday Night Raw, I do believe that they have been having some pretty awesome matches on Raw. So I do hope that Braun Strowman, his injury is not severe, so he won't miss any time from WWE television. So with that being said, guys, that is all of the news that we have for today. Please make sure to let me know your thoughts and opinions on all of the stories that we discussed today. So for our first story, guys, a quick recap. We did talk about potential plans for Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. We also had an update on Shotzi Blackheart's return from her ACL tear. Next, we did talk about Delta, set to make her official WWE debut at NXT Halloween Havoc on October 27th. And we also talked about some very unfortunate news for Braun Strowman that could see him be sidelined for several weeks or several months. So with that being said, guys, that is all of the news that we have for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.